This is Audible.
Hello, and welcome to Volume 2 of the Princeton Review's WordSmart Genius Vocabulary Building audio program.
For the next 4 hours, we're going to introduce you to a host of interesting, erudite, and exciting words.
There's a lot to cover, so let's not waste another minute.
For our first group of genius words, we'll honor the careers of two of the greatest musicians in entertainment history.
Wow, what's the group about?
Oh, it's a good one. It's about male things and female things.
You mean it's about...
Careful, Archie.
I was only going to say, you mean it's about words describing typically male characteristics and typically female characteristics?
Yes, that's it. Typically or stereotypically.
So whom are we honoring?
Why, none other than Captain and Tennille, of course.
Of course!
Okay, you be the captain and I'll be Tony Tennille, and together we'll cover the words that relate to male and female things.
Together as in love will keep us?
That's right, baby. Let's begin with the captain words. Since you're the big man around here, why don't you get us started?
You mock me, no? You think that just because I'm a sensitive, vulnerable man of peace that I'm incapable of roistering with the best of them?
Oh, no, honey. I've seen you roister, and I can safely say yours is among the very best macho swaggers I've ever seen. There is little that can compare with the sight of you tossing back a brew, cussing a blue streak, scratching yourself, and twirling your gun on your finger.
That's me, all right. The Roister King. I and John, Ron, and Charlton used to love to get together after a long day of ultra-masculine behavior such as roping cows, promoting senseless gun violence, and conquering Eastern Europe for a big old night of manly roistering.
To roister is to swagger in a boisterous way. Guys like to roister in front of each other because it makes them feel more secure. Football games are good places for guys to roister together.
Football games are not good places for panty waists.
I know you didn't just say panty waist.
Yes, I did. You won't find a panty waist roistering.
What the devil is a panty waist?
Well, technically, it's a kind of diaper for girls, but usually you'll hear it used to mean girly boy, wuss, or pansy. You don't often hear it used to describe girls.
Archie, that is just horrible. How can you say that?
Hey, I didn't invent the word for bloopy's sake, nor would I ever use it. People in glass houses and all. I'm just here to explain what it means. That way, if one of our listeners should come across it in their travels, they'll know what panty waist means.
Well, okay, I guess. But still, I think we should stay away from words that are so mean, especially ones like panty waist that are so misogynistic.
How is panty waist hateful of women? It's almost always used to make fun of boys.
But that's exactly why. In our culture, it seems the fastest way to insult a man is to compare him in some way to a woman, as if the worst thing a guy could be is feminine in some way. That's why it's misogynistic.
Which means hateful of women.
That's right. You can see the mis at the beginning as in misanthropic, which means hateful of all mankind. And in the middle there, you can see the GYN that shows up in lots of words that relate to women or things female.
Well, I sure am sorry about having brought up panty waist, and I assure you that I am no misogynist. I might be a bit of a roue, but it has less than zero to do with a fear or dislike of women.
What's a roue?
Why, a roue is a rake, a scoundrel, a man who takes advantage. It sounds a little weird, but that's because it's French.
Uh-oh.
That's right. It's from the French rouer, which means to break on the rack or wheel, which is what the French thought should be done to the men who seduced and used women for their own pleasure.
Now I bet they roue the day. Nice
try, Miss Flytrap, but in English, roue is a noun, not a verb.
I know, Archie. I was making a joke.
Oh, sorry. Well, anyway, that's what a roue is. A cad, a sexual predator of sorts, although there's a definite odor of romance about the roue that implies that he who succumbs to the charms of the roue might well have had it coming.
Oh, no, you didn't. You know as well as I do that no means no.
Agreed, but you shouldn't confuse a roue with, say, a rapist. There's a difference, after all, between a scoundrel and a criminal.
So a roue is sort of a satyr.
That would depend on what a satyr is.
Oh, well, a satyr was originally a mythical creature. He lived in woods and was easily identified by his human upper body and his goat legs.
Goat legs?
That's right. The satyr was half man, half goat, and was infamous for his sexual appetite, which is probably because goats are known for the enthusiasm, flamboyance, and aggressiveness of their sex play.
Aha! I wasn't aware of the way in which goats have sex.
No, I thought it was well known. That's why the word satyr is often substituted for lech.
But lots of animals have sex in the open. Why single out goat sex?
Well, if you have to ask, just go watch some goats going at it and you'll see.
How have we managed to sink so low in such short order?
I don't know, Arch. Maybe we should just skip this discussion and move on. What's the next word?
Moil.
Oy.
Sorry. I think this whole group is going to be a little, dicey.
Oh, Archie.
Well, that's sort of the definition of moil, is it not?
Moil, which is spelled M-O-H-E-L, is really a Yiddish word which has come into common usage in English. It's what you call the man who performs the circumcision in the Jewish ceremony called a bris.
What if you're not Jewish?
Then you don't need a moil. You just need someone with a steady hand and a good sense of humor, preferably a doctor.
Is a moil a rabbi?
Nope, not necessarily. He's actually a representative of the father who, according to tradition, is really the one who's supposed to circumcise his own son, as Abraham did.
Yikes. Let's talk about this next word, incubus.
Amen.
Let's see, just what is an incubus? Oh, here we go. An incubus is an evil male spirit who has sex with women while they sleep.
Very nice. Sounds a lot like succubus.
Well, in fact, it appears that they are very similar. Only as the words suggest, a succubus is an evil female spirit who has sex with men while they sleep. The male spirit is an incubus and the female is a succubus.
Let's leave incubus and look at the last word from the captain half of Captain and Tennille, which would be Nimrod. Nimrod. Is this right? I thought a Nimrod was an idiot or a moron.
Well, yes, in the parlance of certain vernacular contexts, a Nimrod is a fool, but in truth, Nimrod was the name of Noah's, the Ark Noah, his great-grandson. He was world-famous as a mighty hunter.
So if I want to say you're a great dancer, then I compare you to Fred Astaire. But when I want to show how great a hunter you are, you big manly man you, I compare you to Nimrod.
That would be correct.
Well, okay, but I gotta say, it just doesn't sound that great. Wow, you hit that helpless deer from 400 feet with your armor-piercing bullets. You're a regular Nimrod. I can't help but think that it sounds like I'm trying to be ironic.
Well, that may be, but the truth is, to be called Nimrod is, for the hunter, a great compliment. So I'll take it.
But you're not a hunter.
So I guess I'm not a Nimrod.
Whatever you say.
I say, save the Nimrods for those guys who enjoy the hunt. That ain't me, see?
You mean you're not my captain?
No more than you're my Tennille, sweetheart. And don't start with that muskrat love stuff either.
Oh, darn, and I was just getting warmed up. Guess we'll just have to settle for a quick review of the manly words before we hear them used in context. I'll just get us started. First up, roister.
To swagger or act in a noisy and blustery way, to be manly.
Panty waist. Ugh.
A word which is used to describe a guy who is not behaving in a manly way. Okay, next word.
Misogynist.
One who fears or loathes women or womankind. Not good, not manly.
True enough. Roue.
A cad, a scoundrel, a rake or mountebank.
Satyr.
Half man, half goat from Greek mythology, now used to describe a lech or otherwise oversexed manly man.
Moil.
The guy who circumcised his baby boys during the Jewish religious ceremony known as a bris.
Incubus.
An evil male spirit who ravages women in their sleep. I recommend using it figuratively.
And finally, Nimrod.
Nimrod was Noah's great-grandson who was a great hunter.
Love will keep us together, Archie. Those are all the manly words. Let's hear them used in context now so we can really get a feel for how they function in the real world. Let's head down to the forest and meet Larry the lumberjack.
Hello, friend. Pull up a stump. I cut this one myself, I did. Have a beer. No need to bother with a bottle opener, just use your teeth. Or are you one of those little panty waists who can't do so much as sharpen his own pencil? 'Cause if you are, well then, there you are. Have a few. Then we'll go out roistering, just the two of us. I enjoy a good swagger now and then, I do. Nothing gets me going like a pint of stout, a full moon, and a good friend. Tell me, are you a good friend? Or are you some kind of evil incubus, come here to have your way with me once I'm drunk and dreamy in my tent? Well, we'll soon see, I guess. Drink up. More. Settle in and I'll tell you of my youth, when I was a strapping young roue who'd have any girl he wanted. Oh, they were putty in my soft young hands. Oh, how they fell for me, only to have their dainty hearts broken. You might think of me as a misogynist for how I hurt them, but I wasn't. I just didn't want all them girly girls hanging around me and my big blue axe. I've always preferred the company of men. So drink. When I got older, there were ladies of the evening. I was a veritable satyr. I could go all night. Keep drinking, lad. I'd spot me a gal of a darker persuasion and then hunt her down like Nimrod in the forest primeval, I did. Drink, you. We'll be heading off to sleep soon, I think. In the tent, for it'll be a frosty night. And tomorrow's a busy day. Old Mrs. Goldstein's had yet another baby boy, some 8 days ago. What with the Moyle being out of town, well, it's up to me and my big blue axe. Come, you drunken punk, and I'll show her to you.
Words to live by, Archie.
He's quite the happy hacker.
Let's pause now as we switch gears and pay homage to one of our greatest singers, Toni Tennille. Complex and potentially costly provisions in the copyright laws prevent me from illustrating just what makes her so marvelous.
So I guess we'll have to dispense with the long-winded encomium and get to the female words in the second half of the group Captain and Tennille.
Right. Let's get to it. Some might call this the distaff half of the word group.
Distaff sounds like a horse racing word.
Well, you're not that far off. It is used in certain equestrian events, but it's not limited to them. When you refer to the distaff side of something, be it a horse race, a college campus, or a barrel of monkeys, you're referring to the female half.
So what you're saying is that distaff means female.
Right, in the broadest sense.
Oh, good one.
Thanks. I thought you might not have noticed.
Very little gets past this head, sister. You're the distaff member of our little WordSmart team here, aren't you?
Why, yes, I guess I am. As are all things female.
And I'm glad to be able to report you're no hoyden.
Well, I should say not. I may have my little imperfections, but I am hardly rude, boisterous, or otherwise inclined to behave like a brat.
Hoyden means all of those things, but interestingly enough, and this is clearly why it's in this group, it's used only to describe women or girls.
And why is that, Archie?
Well, Veronica, hoyden implies that the girl or woman is behaving like a boy, to be frank.
So once again, the worst thing a person can do, at least according to the way in which much of our language is built, is act like a member of the opposite sex.
I'm afraid so, Veronica. And even though many of the mores that gave rise to this simple fact have changed over time, and expectations for each gender group are perhaps less strict than they once were, you still might want to consider not wearing that jockstrap.
You imagine that people will consider me a hoyden for wearing it?
Well, yes, it's boyish. At the very least, it gives you a kind of epicene quality that might make some people a tad uncomfortable.
Epicene?
Yeah, epicene. It means having qualities of both masculine and feminine. It's generally a less favorable description when applied to a guy, though.
In other words, as bad as it might be for a woman to exhibit male characteristics, it's a lot worse for a guy to exhibit feminine ones.
Precisely.
We keep running into this issue, Archie.
So we do, V. It would seem that the very fabric of our language is shot through with a tangible anxiety about gender roles and an almost desperate sense that men and women are in constant danger of violating some fundamental fiat that they observe with the strictest compliance, certain respective codes of dress and behavior without which we might fail to be able to tell them apart.
Indeed.
Things that are epicene can still, even in this day and age, cause people to get angry or even violent.
And yet, in many cases, an epicene quality can be very beautiful, even valuable and sought after.
Yeah.
It's too bad we can be so narrow-minded sometimes, as if the differences between the captain and his wife weren't practically self-evident.
As if we could ever not know the difference.
Amen.
I dare say if I came marching in here in a dress, wearing makeup, and sporting even the finest merkin in town, you'd still know I was a manly man.
I dare say.
I dare indeed.
But Archie, what's a merkin?
It's a wig for your private parts.
Oh, no, he didn't. He didn't just say that a merkin is a wig for my private parts.
Yes, he did. What's the big deal? We all need a little help now and then.
I guess I just didn't want to have that image in my head, that's all. I mean, who in the world would need a merkin anyway?
I'm sure I don't know. It's just a word after all. I suppose there are many good and reasonable explanations for why one would wear a merkin. Perhaps it's a medical situation or a cultural one.
Or maybe it's just the latest fashion trend.
Now, Veronica, no need to get all antsy in your pantsies. Let's leave merkin and talk about another Toni Tennille word, Then maybe we can shop around.
Good idea. I'll take fecund for 1,000.
Good one. Here's an example. For Vincent, the appeal of downtown was clear. He was young and energetic, and the many late-night hotspots would prove a fecund training ground for his many burgeoning impulses.
Less insane. Anna was fecund indeed. In 17 years, she'd had over 15 kids.
Fecund means fertile or able to bear fruit. It's often applied to women as it implies a yielding up of one's bounty. A woman can be fecund, a field can be fecund, or even a situation can be fecund if it promises to bear fruit.
But in general, one doesn't apply the word fecund to men, as they are not traditionally the bearers of fruit.
That said, I'll move us along to the next word, toothsome.
I'm guessing that it doesn't mean what it sounds as if it means.
You're guessing correctly, although the sound of the word can help you remember what it means. If something is toothsome, it's tasty or pleasant, but 9 times out of 10, toothsome has a sexual connotation.
As in, Miranda over there is a toothsome individual.
Exactly. So while the allure of the State House was a toothsome prospect for the young politician, it was not in the end more so than was one particular young woman, whose feminine charms and inability to keep a secret would ultimately have to be enough.
I see, said the blind man.
I remember toothsome because if I find something to be toothsome, that is to say tasty and attractive, then I want to sink my teeth into it.
And like so many of the words we've looked at in this group, toothsome is generally applied to women only.
Like minx, for example.
I don't wear fur.
No, not mink. Minx. M-I-N-X.
What's a minx?
As if you didn't know. A minx is a flirtatious girl.
So why not just call me a flirt?
Because minx has a different nuance to it. It implies a kind of cat-like sophistication that flirt doesn't have. There's a saucy, sassy, sexy quality to the word minx, as if the girl is doing more than just flirting.
But less than seducing.
Right. There's a playful kind of aggressiveness to being a minx that can't really be summed up in any other word.
Have you ever heard the riddle of the minx?
Nope. Have you ever heard the word ailurophile?
Nope. What's it mean?
Well, we know it has to do with liking or loving something because it ends with the suffix phile, as in francophile, necrophile, and all the other philes.
So what kind of phile is an ailurophile?
A cat lover.
Like my neighbor upstairs. She has 30 cats in her one-bedroom apartment, so she must be a real ailurophile's ailurophile.
No, she would be a real loon's loon. And that pretty much wraps up the Tony to Neil, or female half of the words from this group. I think it's safe to move on now. First, we'll have a quick review of the words we just learned.
I'll give the words, Archie, and you give the definition.
Agreed. Start.
Distaff.
Female, pertaining to women.
Hoyden.
A brutish, ill-mannered girl, a tomboy.
Epicene.
Having qualities of both genders.
Merkin.
A pubic wig.
Fecund.
Fertile.
Toothsome.
Tasty, pleasant, or attractive.
Minx.
A saucy, flirtatious girl or woman.
Ailurophile.
A cat lover.
That's it.
That's good.
Now let's meet a gal who can pull them all together into one coherent group. She's a childhood hero of mine, a woman I wasn't sure we'd be able to convince to speak, but who eventually agreed when I told her how much she meant to me growing up.
This ought to be good.
My best favorite role model.
Oh, yeah.
My 9th grade gym teacher, Marcia Spitz.
Woohoo! Okay, let's go! Let's go! Everybody line up, let's move! Now listen up, girls! I know this is a difficult time for you. It's never easy being the Distaff Junior Varsity team. Believe me, I wish we could all play on the boys' team, but that's just not how it works. At least not yet. And as tough as it is, I realize that this is also a time of real change for you girls, and things are going to get even tougher as you go through it. You're all losing those epicene qualities you had growing up. You're starting to look less like boys and more like real women. Some of you are becoming downright toothsome, I don't mind saying it. And that's a good thing. Messy, but good. And I want to encourage you to embrace these changes. I know that almost everyone looks forward to that time when a young female athlete ceases to be a hoyden and becomes a lovely young woman. So now, that said, I want to address the little matter of that merkin that was found in the locker room yesterday. Now, I realize that some of you might be maturing a little bit more quickly than others. I also know that this is a frickin' time full of possibility.
These teen years can be the best of your life, but you'll get nothing out of trying to pretend to be further along than you already are. And no girl I've ever known got anywhere by being a minx. Sure, the short-term rewards of vamping it up can be a gas, but eventually you'll come to regret it. So let's just put this little episode behind us. I've disposed of the aforementioned article, and I'm off to the cat lovers convention. Jenny will be in charge while we Iolurophiles compare notes for a few days. I hope you all understand that I'm not angry, just hopeful that we can all go through this like adults and come out together happy in the end. Now, hit the showers!
Love her.
She changed my life.
But we digress. It's time for a review of all the words from both halves of the group Captain and Tennille.
Here's how it will work. We're going to mix the words up so the order doesn't give everything away. You'll hear a word and then the sentence from the speech in which it was used in context.
Whichever of the two speeches it was.
Right. That will give you a chance to search the highways and byways of your mind for the meaning. Then, just to confirm things, we'll provide you with a quick definition.
Then it's on to the next Captain and Tennille word, which gets the same treatment. And so on, and so on, and so on.
Love ya.
You too. Here we go.
First up is roister.
Have a few, then we'll go out roistering, just the two of us. I enjoy a good swagger now and then, I do.
To roister is to swagger in a loud, boisterous way.
Distaff.
It's never easy being the Distaff junior varsity team. Believe me, I wish we all could play on the boys' team, but that's just not how it works.
Distaff is female or pertaining to women.
Panty waist.
Or are you one of those little panty waists who can't do as much as sharpen his own pencil?
A panty waist is a female undergarment, also a man who is considered feminine.
Hoyden.
I know that almost everyone looks forward to that time when a young female athlete ceases to be a hoyden and becomes a lovely young woman.
A hoyden is an ill-mannered girl or tomboy.
Misogynist.
You might think of me as a misogynist for how I hurt them, but I wasn't. I just didn't want all them girly girls hanging around me and my big blue axe.
A misogynist is one who hates or fears women.
Epicene.
You're all losing those epicene qualities you had growing up. You're starting to look less like boys and more like real women.
Epicene means having both male and female qualities.
Roue.
Settle in and I'll tell you of my youth when I was a strapping young roue who'd have any girl he wanted.
A roue is a man who seduces and takes advantage of women. A cad, a scoundrel.
A merkin.
I want to address the little matter of the merkin that was found in the locker room yesterday. Now, I realize